Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Not sure about your experience with the can openers lately, but we seem to be going through an awful lot of them, almost like one a month. They all seem to have some sort of built-in flaw. In this particular case, the plastic handle cracked and it fell off the main shaft for the can opener. Everything else on it seems quite solid though. There aren't any issues with rivets or gears as there has been with some of the other ones we picked up. So I stuck a pair of vice grips on it and just continued to use it just to see if it was indeed going to hold up and be worth fixing. So I did that about 2 months ago, and of course the only real downside is every time I wanted to use those pair of vice grips, and even though they look rusty and everything else, they're actually one of my favorite pairs. I've had them forever, and I would have to go up to the kitchen and get them, and then of course then I'd have to remember when I wanted to open a can to go back it down and get my vice grips and stick it back on. Not a big deal, I suppose, but anyway, I decided finally to put a real handle on this. And of course, there was a number of different ways I could go. I could have taken a solid piece of aluminum. I could have drilled a hole roughly shaft sized. Of course, put in a perpendicular hole, threaded it, put in a set screw, and of course held it in place. And then go to the process of sanding that all down and getting it into the proper shape to do what it needs to do and be functional and easy on the hands and all that stuff. And then I came to my senses because, well, it's a can opener. No one cares what it looks like. What I really want to make sure is that it's solid. It can be used for what it needs to be done for, and that's it. So I decided what I'm going to do here is take a couple of strips of aluminum. I'm going to wedge the shaft in between those, and I haven't shown it yet, but also I'm going to make a couple of small spacers. And then I'm just going to bolt it down solidly in place. And then that's it. That is going to be the new handle for the can opener. And I'm going to test it out and see if it works, of course. I can't see it being a problem. Like I said, this is one of those quick and dirty fixes. It didn't take me more than half hour to do the whole thing. I mean, it takes longer sometimes to film these things than it does to actually make the actual item itself. I said, I didn't want to waste too much time on this. So I'm going to drill a bunch of holes. You can see they're not centered, but they are centered over where the shaft is. So there's a flat surface that you would normally put the set screw in. So that's where those are centered on. So when I put them all together, as you can see here in a second, the actual force of the two bolts are going to be right down over the center of that. So that it's not going to be, like I said, a lot of force on this, but I want to make sure it lasts. I mean, that's one of my main things when I build things. I don't like having to rebuild them. So you see there's the spacers, and the only reason why I did that is I wanted to not have too much of a bend. The shaft is obviously about I think 3-4 millimeters thick, and I just didn't want to have not 3/16 of an inch, and I didn't want to have too much of a bend on this, but I wanted it obviously to be thinner than the shaft so that I put a fair amount of force onto it so that it holds in place. So I originally started doing this, tightening them down and everything, and then I realized that I hadn't centered it. So I'm going to undo these here in a second. I'm going to put a center dot on the piece of aluminum, and then center it up, and of course square it up, and then tighten down the bolts, and that's basically all that really needs to be done for this build. One of the things I wanted to make sure I did when I was doing this, the reason for going this route, I guess I should say, is I wanted it to be something that's tool friendly. You don't really need that much to do this job. You need a couple of little strips of aluminum, a couple of bolts, a hacksaw, and you also can get away with just using a file to take off the sharp edges. Now I decided, of course, because, well, I'm lazy, I am going to use a hacksaw to remove the bolts, but I am going to use the belt sander I have to sand down the edges and all the sharp bits because, well, it takes a lot less time, and one of the things I was also including in the reason for doing this is I don't want to spend too much time on this. I wanted to get it done and just basically have a functional item. So there you go, it's almost finished here now. Off camera I will do the sanding, but I will show you the process of, well, hacksawing off the bolts. Again, like I said, I wanted to make this tool friendly. I am going to use a vise, of course, because it just makes sense. You probably could get away with using a pair of pliers and just getting that all in place, but again, I just want to make sure things were quick. So there you go. That is done, really. It's going to, like I said, make it user-friendly. And then the other thing I want to do, of course, is show you in use. I wasn't concerned that it wouldn't work because, like I said, I have been using it with a pair of vice grips on it for, like I said, a couple months, and it works perfectly fine. I just want to show you guys it's in function here. So let's cut the bolt off, and then I'm going to sand that all down, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. Turns out, actually, it's not that ugly, but like I said, it's not pretty either. So there you go. It's on there solidly. You can't pull it off. The bolts are 1/4 inch, so more than solid enough. I probably could have done a bit better job on sanding it, but again, just making it functional. And you can see there's a bit of a bend there, and that is putting all the pressure on that shaft, making sure that this doesn't come off. There you go. So the last thing here is to show you it in operation. Exciting, I know. It's just going to be me opening a can of corn, I think. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Leave comments. Let me know what you think about all this. Like I said, it's just a quick and dirty, just getting something functional. And this way I don't have to buy cantilevers all the time. So there you go. Leave comments. Let me know what you think. See you in the next video, and bye for now.